is Zal. Today in this video we're looking at a NOT Baxcalibur deck. It's actually going to be Emboar. Have you heard of this Pokemon? Well, we're looking at Emboar and seeing what we can do with it. In the upcoming set, we have it in White Flare. We're going to be getting this beast, and it's actually a beast we've already seen. A beast with the Inferno Fandango ability, and this Inferno Fandango is what is comparing it to Baxcalibur. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So this is similar to the Baxcalibur version, who does this with water, but this guy has been around already. Look at this old photo of him, a family photo. Really nice stuff. I love seeing that. But it's gonna be fun. And I adore this sort of thing. I really like being able to kind of cheat out more energy, because you're usually only allowed the one for attachment from hand per turn, but through abilities and things we can attach more, and I really like when we can do that. So, and fun fact, Emboar's name is also the same kind of almost in Japanese, Enboru. Enbudo. Really cool stuff there. So for fire type enjoyers, I'm sure this might be good. There are a bunch of fire cards that we're going to look at and fire Pokemon that I think people want to make work anyway, and so this might be starting to get your thinking caps on to think about how we can do this. So what can we consider? So N-Star Manitan is one right off the bat. So this is another very recent one from Journey Together, of course. Now, this one has an attack backdraft, which does 30 for each energy in the opponent's discard pile, and that one hasn't seen as much play. It can have niche plays, but mostly we're looking at Flame Body Cannon as well. Flame Body Cannon doing 90 and then 90 to one of your bench Pokemon. This is a single price Pokemon that is able to hit onto the bench too, so long as Shaman is not there to block it. Now, if you want to go a single prize Pokemon deck type, like Emboar already is as well, to kind of synergize with that, that is a possibility, and therefore N-Star Manitan might be a possibility. For some, though, it might be not enough damage being output here, and that is kind of fair, I would say. But, and it can be difficult to set up unless you kind of build around it. But, you can see this is at least a single prize fire option, And another one that's also a stage 1 that you could potentially be looking at is Ethan's Magcargo, who is also recent from Destined Rivals. Magcargo has 130 HP. It has the ability Melt Away. If it has no energy attached, it has no retreat cost, which is pretty nice. All these Pokemon, by the way, have huge retreat costs, my goodness. But Lava Burst is the main attack we're looking at here, doing 70 damage for each fire energy you discard from this Pokemon. Now, you can only discard up to 5, but that is still going to be a significant amount of damage either way. If we look at the math here, with 1 energy discarded, you're doing 70, of course, the base damage amount. Then with 2, it's 140. Then with 3, it's 210. Then with 4, it's 280. Then with 5, it's 350. So even with 5, you're hitting very hard, I want to say, You're hitting the Dragapult, you're hitting the Dragapult EX deck, I should say, and then the Guardian stuff. But yeah, and it is on a single prize Pokemon, like I said. So I think this sort of attack is what Inferno Fandango, what comes to mind when you're thinking about a deck like that. The downside, of course, is having to discard them and having to run recovery cards, but that is just kind of how it works a little bit, We also have other strong discard card engined attacks, like Raging Bolt's attack, like Chien Pao, etc. And yeah, I think it's pretty solid still. Now, another option that might bring Armarouge into the limelight, maybe, is going to be this Armarouge EX with Crimson Armor here. If this Pokemon has full HP, it takes 80 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. That's alright. And then Scorching Bazooka is the main attack here to use as an attacker. So for 2 energy, it does 40 more damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. Now notice that it says just attached. So unlike Magcargo, this just has to be attached to this Pokemon, but it is only doing 40. But how does that look spread out? If we have 2 energy attached, which is the minimum amount we need to actually do the attack, we're doing 120, and then if we go all the way up to 8 energy attached, we go to 380 damage, looks like. So that is a lot of energy to attach. And although Inferno Fandango can do that, if you have like 8 energy in hand, it can attach all of them. Actually getting that much energy in hand is another story, of course. And so that's what's kind of we're going to have to think about, for getting this thing to work. And, like I said, and not every attack is going to be needing a huge amount. You don't always have to KO one shot everything, but just to keep it in perspective, like it does take maybe a lot. 40 damage for each isn't as high as some other ones, but it is, I think, making up for it because it's attached to the Pokemon, and you can always build that up, keep him on the bench, and build up the board state. It is nice, and Armarouge, since it's a stage 1 Pokemon, it does have a little bit more HP at 260 HP, so that's also something to consider, and with that ability, it's taking less attacks, it's tanking a bit more. Now, another one is going to be Gouging Fire EX. There are Gouging Fire EX believers out there. I've seen you guys. And he has 230 HP, kind of lower, but it is on a basic Pokemon. It makes sense. This ancient Pokemon is a fire type with Heat Blast, and then Blair Blitz doing 260, but then it can't use that same attack consecutively again until it leaves the active spot, which is kind of cumbersome. Now, with Air Balloon coming, that might be another story. Air Balloon would make that retreat cost of 2 essentially 0, and so Gouging Fire would have free retreat, making it a little bit more flexible if you want to pull off that Blaze Blitz consecutively, let's say, for example. And, 260 damage is pretty nice, and 3 energy onto it is pretty nice. That's pretty manageable, and like I said, it doesn't discard it or anything like that at the end, so that is beneficial. So it's something to keep in mind, for sure. Like I said, Gouging Fire believers and veterans, let me know more about your thoughts on Gouging Fire. I'd love to hear more. But another fire Pokemon that's like around that you could consider is Hearth Flame Mask Ogerpon EX. Now, when I say consider, I mean just think about it. But like, I don't know how far we're getting with this guy because he only has 210 HP. Just like the other Ogerpons and stuff, and its attacks, Wrathful Hearth, the first one for 3 energy, doing 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Now, that one is not quite synergizing with the deck, but then Dynamic Blaze is 140 plus for 3 fire energy. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon, it does 140 more damage, and then you discard all the energy. So this does have that downside of discarding all the energy, but it also kind of has the downside of needing to have an evolution Pokemon. And so that means that, this basic Pokemon is not as versatile as, like, it could be, but it kind of makes sense. There are a lot of evolution Pokemon, and, like, really, for some, maybe it's not a downside. It has 1 retreat cost, you can kind of move it around easier and stuff, and like I said, only bring it out during certain matchups and things. But ultimately, I think it's still not so hot, and that's why I guess we haven't seen it that much either, is because it just hasn't been so prominent, so powerful, and, easy, versatile to use. I don't know, we'll see, but that is just another fire Pokemon that's around to consider. Now, as for new ones, Reshiram EX is the new one on the block that's coming with the set with Emboar, and it is a basic Pokemon at 230 HP, just like Gouging Fire, and then its attack is Blaze Burst, doing 130 plus for 3 energy. It does 50 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken, and then you discard an energy from the Pokemon when you use the attack. Now, here we go again. This is going to mean that Reshiram EX can be a pretty strong and solid attacker from even just 2 prizes, like mid-game to late game. So 1 prize taken is 180 damage, 2 prizes is 230, 3 prizes 280, 4 prizes 330, 5 prizes 380. So we have here, we're looking at some decent damage output, especially if you bring him out at the right time, and 3 energy for Inferno Fandango to attach, if you have it, is not very difficult. And even the downside of discarding an energy is not that difficult, I want to say. We're going to be running some recovery cards, we're going to be trying to have enough fire energy to really use this and be versatile, and so I think it's not going to be a huge problem. But yeah, I think Reshiram is pretty solid, and in some lists that I've seen from Japan and stuff already, there already seems to be some building with Reshiram as well, maybe as another attacker potentially. But there is also, I really like the idea of a single prize one box kind of thing, mostly, but we'll see how that plays out. I do have here also these other niche cards from the set too. So Hemor is, I believe, coming in White Flare and stuff. It's got Tongue Catch. Search your deck for up to 3 in any combination of Fire Energy and basic Fire Pokemon, sorry, and basic Fire Energy cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand. So that could be an easy thing to set up. It's a basic Pokemon. It can, help find things on the first opening turns. Volcarona is also another fire Pokemon with an interesting ability that's coming to be aware of. Scorching Scales. Once during your turn, you may discard a basic fire energy card from your hand in order to leave your opponent's active Pokemon burned. So that's kind of playing around with our burn counters and things, and just kind of mentioning them to reiterate that they are coming too, so maybe that could spark some ideas. Now, as for actual deck lists to show off and stuff here, I'll had to have this linked, of course, in the description. Oh no. But we can look at some other lists that people have already been cooking and stuff. This one even has the old Emboars being stand-ins because I believe they said that, the cards weren't in the system yet to put in the deck list. So I think now it's fine, but yeah, that people are out here building. So this one features kind of that single prize idea I kind of mentioned before, with the Darmanitan and Magcargo being main attackers, I want to say, and then having support through Emboar. The only Stage 2 Pokemon is going to be that Pheasantipity. Now, you can see here with a build like this, we're going to have plenty of energy recovery options, as well as finding our energy. Finding our energy with things like Earthen Vessel and stuff, and energy recursion with superior energy retrieval, Night Stretcher, Super Rod is there, all that sort of stuff. Then we also have 2 Ethan's Adventure cards to help find stuff out of the deck, find energy, and find the Magcargo and Slugma potentially as well from the deck. So that could be helpful. Jacques is here to find our evolutions because, as you can see, this is really relying on evolution Pokemon. It's kind of the whole thing. So I can see the use of that. But also Arvin to be able to get things like TM Evolution and those item cards that you might need for comboing things like Rare Candy as well. Stuff like that. There's also Switch Card in Prime Catcher as the Ace-Spec. As mentioned before, a lot of these Pokemon have huge retreat costs, so perhaps having some sort of way to switch around or have some way of movement could be nice. Now, and especially also with Regigigas, you can also consider Heavy Baton. I was playing around with that and with Regigigas, because Regigigas is a Pokemon that has been seen in Chi-Yin-Pao decks before, that I usually play when I play Chi-Yin-Pao, because it has a very high attack cost, but for a deck that can just attach at free will, really, if you have it, it's not that hard. And this could be a nice tech option for Terra Pokemon. So Jewel Break, you're doing 100, but then 230 more on a Terra. So this is stuff like for Dragapult being in the format, the Terra Pokemon. So that is just another option to think about. Overall, I think it's still very early and whatnot, and I think we're going to see these things develop, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to hear from you if you plan to play this or have any results with it in the future or anything. I would love to hear about it, and especially what you might be putting in there. Now, thank you again, and thank you for all the support through even just liking, commenting. Means a lot. It helps out a ton. I appreciate it. And consider subscribing for more future content if you'd like. We're going to be going through a lot. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you again, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye!